NCAA Football 13 certainly has curb appeal, man. I'm telling you, it looks nice to me from the edge. And when you park in front of a high-definition display, it's almost impossible not to be impressed by the game's visuals. But the value has to go beyond just the beauty. It's got to have a strong foundation, and of course, the strong foundation is about what? Gameplay. So now that the retail version of the game released on Tuesday, I had my hands on the game actually since July 6th via the EA Season Pass. And I really put in about 5 hours of gameplay per day for like 4 days straight. So I think I'm fairly qualified to give a pretty in-depth review. Let's talk about the graphics and animation to start off. Now the player models, to me, the field, the helmets, the mascots, and most everything about NCAA 13 looks great. Now any game played at any time of the day looks good, but daytime games are especially sparkling to me. The outside use of the lighting and the shading makes the action pop even more. The player models look a little better than last year's version, but the real reason behind that enhancement is really because of the motion blur. The movement, that little blurry feeling that you get right on the outside of your players really adds to the realism. When you watch a real game on television, you probably don't even notice it, but there is that little bit of blur around the players while they're moving. EA has simulated this look, and it really can't be overstated how much this impacts the overall visual package. Now the rotation of a thrown ball is better. The look of the grass as the players are cutting and moving is also great. The stadiums have been recreated and is good, if not better, than they've ever been in the series before. The historical backdrops and the scenery really match most every program stadium and its surroundings. So with all of this great stuff, why am I only giving this section of the game a 9.25 and not a 10, right? Well, it's because of the crowd. The crowd looks horrible, to be honest. It's really like a print. It's like, unless you're looking at a cut screen, it's really just, little specks, little pixels out there. So luckily in football, that isn't as big of a deal as it would be in a sport with a more intimate environment where the crowd is right on top of the action. Since that's not the case, it can kind of get by on that. I may be being nice giving it a 9.25 in graphics, but I felt that everything else looked very good. So I'm not going to knock it down too much for the crowd, but it's definitely a disappointing aspect of the game. Gameplay and realism. Now, there have been a few market improvements that have positively impacted the gameplay. Now, first and foremost, there's over 430 new animations in the game. Now, this makes mostly receptions, but some tackles and runs progress more realistic. There's also some new pass trajectories, and that's huge because it gives gamers more control over where they place the ball on pass plays. And you can even cancel out of play fakes if you read the defense, because we all know play action passes don't work that much. They work a little bit better this year, but still not as much as you'd like. And basically, if you see that the play is going to result in a sack or a tackle for a loss, you can cancel out of the play fake. Now, the AI for the defensive players has improved, but now all players must be turned around to see the ball to make a play on it, which is good, so you don't have the psychic swat downs from the DBs that you had before. Another great thing is that I see the defensive players don't drop as many easy picks. In previous years, it felt like linebackers was like playing with stone mittens, and they could never catch easy interceptions. So now you'll pay more often for the errant pass. In Road to Glory and Heisman Challenge, which I'll get into a little bit more about Heisman Challenge later, the core gameplay is really the same, but there are two significant new additions. Now you can now return kicks and punts in Road to Glory and in the new Heisman Challenge, which is very similar to Road to Glory if you haven't seen the videos and stuff and things of that nature. In addition to that, EA has implemented a new game effect exclusive to Road to Glory and Heisman Challenge, and it's called Reaction Time. So think Max Payne's bullet time on a football field, but with like far less invincibility. It basically allows you to slow down the action to react to the defenders. Now, once you get the hang of it, it can create some nice plays. But don't think that just because you go into reaction time, it's going to be easy to score, you're invincible. It really doesn't work that way. You get a specified amount of time per quarter, which is dictated by the player's awareness rate. On top of that, you still have to know when to use it. Is it realistic? No, it's not. But in the scheme of Road to Glory and Heisman Challenge, it's a cool way to kind of make it different than the other modes of play. So all things considered, the addition to Road to Glory and Heisman Challenge, along with the touch-ups to gameplay, to me make it a very solid and fun football game to play, and that's why I gave it a 9. Moving on to sound and presentation.
Here's an update from the studio and Reese. Time to check in on Rustin. It felt as if the game rested on every...
Always been one area where I see like the most room for improvement. The announcer was supposed to receive a major overhaul to fix what was like an extremely repetitive system in the past. Well, you can hear some of the differences, but I say that there's still a ways to go in this area. Some of the old references still creep in out of the virtual miles of Kirk Herbstreit and Brad Nessler, but not nearly as much as it used to before. I always criticize EA for not taking better advantage of like the ESPN license in their games, and you can see that they did make a concerted effort to use the Worldwide Leaders brand in this one. There's more overlays and the presence of Reese Davis during studio updates. I like that concept, but I gotta say, if you don't have video highlights when he's doing it, or at least having virtual Reese Davis on the screen, it gets repetitive really fast, and they do way too many updates per quarter. Doing 3 and 4 updates per quarter is excessive, especially considering most people are paying 5 to 7 minute a quarter. So that's not really exactly capturing it. I like the idea, but it's not really going for it. There's still no pregame, no halftime, or no postgame show. So that's something I still feel is lacking. I'm not sure why it hasn't been added. I like the inclusion of the bottom line ticker though, and the overall direction of using the ESPN brand. Camera angles are awesome, and you can tweak them a bit for like your style and your preference. If it's actually especially cool in the Road to Glory and Heisman Challenge modes, because they're like position specific. So as a wide receiver, you're further out away, we're slanted towards whatever side you line up on, and vice versa, and pretty much etc. This is still, I think, the area of the game with the most opportunity for growth, but I can honestly say that I see the signs of improvement, but it is still moving a little bit slow. That's why I only gave it a 7 in this area. Options, modes, and online. Now, this game is loaded with options, as you would expect from a franchise with this much longevity. The traditional Dynasty mode, of course, is back, as is online Dynasty. A lot of people were a little bit mad at that last year because the servers were a little shaky. This year, I can say that through, 5 online games and a couple online Dynasty setups, I haven't noticed any of those issues that we saw before. However, it's still fairly early in release, and I think we might have seen a full server, but I'll give it another week before I say that for sure. Road to Glory is back with some nice new additions, like the aforementioned ability to return kicks was big, and it works out real nicely. There's some new changes to the practice and pregame aspects for your player, allowing you to basically be more prepared for the upcoming game. That leads me actually into Heisman Challenge, which is pretty much, I would say, the most pushed aspect of this game from a marketing standpoint. You can take 12 guys, actually 12 former Heisman winners on the retail version. It ultimately can go up higher with unlockables. I believe Tim Tebow, Matt Leinart, and Mark Ingram are unlockable if you pre-ordered, and I think there'll be DLC later on. But out of the box, you got Marcus Allen, Doug Flutie, Eddie George, Robert Griffin III, Desmond Howard, Carson Palmer, Barry Sanders, Charlie Ward, Andre Ware, and Herschel Walker to play with. You can put them on any team. You also, have Tim Brown, Archie Griffin, and Jim Plunkett. You can put them on any team. So you can put them on their alma mater's rival. You can put them back on their regular team. Whatever you want to do, and you'll have them competing against this year's competition. So that's kind of cool, and you're basically trying to have them attain or break the records that they broke in their Heisman season, and then ultimately winning the Heisman. Winning it with them will basically unlock them in Road to Glory mode and some other, and moving on to Dynasty, which is still to me the key to any sports game. The presentation is heightened. We talked about the Reese Davis updates, and it's basically all to pull you in more to the whole college football season experience. I think they do a good job, but as I'll mention again, a weekly wrap-up show or pre-week show would have really taken this to the next level. What they do excellent is the recruiting aspect. The recruiting system is awesome. It's extremely intuitive. It's competitive when you're going after a really big time recruit, and it's really, they really just nailed it. One of the last pieces is the team builder option. The team builder option really functions well. You do it from your PC, Mac, and you basically can almost completely customize a team. From the name, you can upload a logo, and I mean, any picture you have on your computer you can use as a logo for your team. I'm not sure if you put like a naked ass on there, if they're gonna let that stay. I'm not sure if there's censors, but any picture you have initially you can use. So the options are aplenty, and thus I gave it a 9 in that area. For the overall, this is a really solid game. It's encouraging. There's so many of the little things that fans complained about were addressed. As I always say, though, there's no perfect game, but what's better than striving for improvements, I mean, you can't really argue with that, and I think we would all agree that that's something that's been done with NCAA 13. I gave it an 8.5 overall, something I definitely think you should have if you like video game football and if you played the series before. Peace, and thanks for watching. Hit that subscribe button.
He's in. Touchdown, Badgers. And they had a tough time defending that one.
Well, Brad, one of the things with this defense is you leave yourself vulnerable in one-on-one coverage. Great throw by the quarterback and great speed by the receiver.
When you're in the huddle and the post route is called, the quarterback and the wide receiver get excited because they know that there's a chance for a big play. Here, the only